This is Zakarin from Katusha Alpazin. Now that's a team that needs a stage win.
And it's a man who has the skill set to do it, but we've seen in this tour he seems to be completely exhausted from his efforts in the Giro d'Italia, where he finished 10th overall. This is l'église de l'Assomption de Notre-Dame in Benejac. Now the next man in the row.
This is Andre Amador, followed by Marc Soler. Movistar making a real mark on this race. Dylan Van Baal is still in that group. This is Fabio Aru at the back of the peloton. Number 136, that is Volker Mollema. Rue is starting to get back towards what we expect from the Italian. Romain Bardet, though, is not. This is moral support for Romain Bardet from Michael Chirel and Tony Galopin. This has nothing with trying to save his hopes in this year's Tour de France. This is about supporting the person, not the athlete.
Supporting the person, but this could leave these riders with a long and lonely ride for themselves if Bardet decides this is it and steps off. That would not surprise me.
Michael Chirel and Tony Galopin. Number 32 is Bardet's roommate throughout the tour. They are very close personal friends. Tony Galopin is one of the statesmen of the team. They're in no fear of being eliminated, even if Bardet does stop. Rui Costa is the rider who's with them in the white colours from UAE. Nibali in red. Gisbert now going forward. One of the big results for Ali Gisbert's career was a solo, and that was in the Tour d'Avenir. So he's a guy who can climb, and he is proving it today. 22-year-old Leonard Kamna in the red colours fighting to stick with the more experienced Ilmar Zakarin.
Well, Zakarin's come across a big gap. You saw the acceleration from the rest of the group, and you've got to wonder what didn't go with him in the first place. He's making inroads. Wellens in polka dots, Vincenzo Nibali in the red and blue of Bahrain. Gilbert up there as well. Zakarin coming across. Kamna going in the wrong direction.
He's climbing well. It looks awkward, but it is very effective.
He's getting close, but he's not carrying the momentum he had. And Nibali, he ups the tempo again. He doesn't want a good climber like Zakarin with him, so go a bit quicker, make it harder for him. Happy with a group like take care of these two on the Tourmalet. And it's only a minute and a half to the peloton. You've got to race with everything you've got all the way through.
And based on the interview that we heard earlier on with Tim Wellens, he's half finished racing for those 10 points in the King of the Mounts classification. So he's all in to the midway point on the stage. Vincenzo Nibali is thinking about the finish line of the Tourmalet. And Alejandro Valverde was still in the yellow jersey group.
A lot of Spanish fans on the road, a lot of the Basque fans. You just saw one of the Basque flags off to the right-hand side. Opa, Mikel, they're out supporting their riders, the Basque, and they're just fantastic.
Volker Mollema now is being dropped, so Richie Port for Trek Segafredo looks as if in that group with the yellow jersey, Port is on his own. Nibali sprinting to the top of this climb. Stage victories and maybe even the King of the Mountains jersey. He's got the current leader of that classification with him. Wellens up alongside the Shark of Messina. A little look across to each other.
Vincenzo Nibali spoke pre-tour before he knew Chris Froome wouldn't start about coming to the tour, going for stages, and maybe for the polka dot jersey. Nibali, Wellens has got him pinned up against the crowd. The Belgian will be too quick.
The sprint on for the points. Tim Wellens, he just nudged Vincenzo Nibali smartly into the crowd. The gate was Wellens reeled into the boats. He hits the brakes over the top.
Intentions are clear. He'd love a stage win, but he's starting to think a little bit longer term than that as well. 28 seconds behind.
And I'm not backing Ilmar Zakarin to catch Vincenzo Nibali on the descent.
Not only that, he'll be losing a lot of time.
I'm certain Nibali has gone back to plan A and chasing a spot on the podium in Paris with the polka dot jersey. Swanier at the top, fresh bidon for Ilmar Zakarin. And it's Andre Amador who is on the front for Movistar. And the yellow jersey of Julian Alaphilippe is right behind Mikael Landa.
You want to put me under pressure, huh? I'll just come and ride on the back of your team. You're riding for me. I'm happy here.
Movistar with 5 riders in that group and 1 still to catch on the road. Carlos Barro. So too number 3, which is John Kester of Viejo. This is Andre Amador, the world champion, his teammate, Alberto.
This takes me back to last year's Tour de France. We saw some really aggressive riding by the Movistar team. Very tactical as well, sending riders up the road, attacking board, a teammate to make some pace in between climbs. In the end, it blew up in their face and they were dropped. But this is a real show of force.
Richie Porte is there, Thibaut Pinot, Bennett, Kruiswijk, Rigoberto Urán there in the pink colours. Teammate with him. You would assume that it is Michael Woods, although Michael Woods has had a few crashes. Kenel Kanga, the Estonian from that team, is also a world-class climber.
Movistar with Andre Amador on the front, they'll be looking to not only put pressure on the climb, they'll be putting pressure on the descent. Amador is a very good descender. They'll be dragging them down there very quickly indeed. Adam Yates still not onto the back of this group. It does look to be you can just go on the climb of the Col de Soleure.
It's definitely lights out for Romain Bardet. For the Mitchelton Scott team, they've been able to pick up a couple of stage victories already. Soon we'll be hearing from Nicola Portal, the sports director for Ineos. I think this is Gisbert, and this is Wellens in front of him. And in the distance, you can't see him. It'll be Nibali, and it is one of the best descenders in the world.
It is pressure on. Vincenzo Nibali also realises with just a minute and a half back to the... This is a place he could take advantage of some cautious riding back there to open up the gap and really have a crack at the stage win.
If you like watching fast descending, I suggest you get online and you have a look at Vincenzo Nibali descending off the Poggio last year to win Milan Sanremo ahead of the sprinters. That was one of the best descents ever likely to watch. Nibali put on a masterclass, and he is the professor of descending this afternoon. Straightens up and Wellens is able to get back to him. But as soon as they're in the corners, Nibali opens the gap again. Fromage of the Pyrenees. We've seen plenty of cows to help with production of that cheese.
And here is the reinforcements for Movistar.
This is Carlos Verona. He will stay on the front and drive it through the Valley Road. They're really putting this race under pressure. Wellens, Nibali, Gisbert.
That Quintana has his heart set on a big performance, and not just an emotional, it's got to be this day because of the date. Nairo Quintana will be feeling really good. He'll be having great confidence in his own ability. Saw him do it last year when the roads got above 2,000 metres altitude. He would not have his team ride like this if he wasn't feeling in the right.
Last year that win, high altitude finish above 2,000 metres, shortest road stage of the race. Today, shortest road stage of the race, high altitude finish above 2,000 metres. All the ingredients are there for Nairo Quintana, and I'm of the view his form this year is better than it was last year.
And it seems to suit him really well. A short stage that's intense from start to finish. No let up, no tempo riding on the climbs. Keep everybody at the limit for as long as possible. And then when he gets to those higher altitudes is where we have often seen the Colombians come into their own. So maybe another man that's liking this is Rigoberto Urán.
Being relaxed at the back, a classic Rigoberto Urán, rockstar style, comes in late. He's got everything just at his feet. He'll never panic, Rigoberto Urán. He was very good in the time trial yesterday. I think Rigoberto Urán can win today's stage.
I think he can. I'm leaning towards Quintana.
I'm leaning to Urán.
One of the other Colombians would expect it so to France yesterday, and that was Egan Bernal.
And today, surely he has to work for Geraint Thomas.
You would think so. Egan Bernal, he said himself yesterday, after the time trial, it was a bad day to have a bad day. Who knows if he's already back, but I think you're right. The hierarchy in that team now has got to be first for Thomas. If Bernal doesn't have to work, see what he can also do to stay up there.
Green jersey, Robbie, in the mountains. Peter Sagan hasn't yet been caught by yellow.
Bit of discomfort early on as we come past L'église Saint-Félix in Oka. But Peter Sagan got himself into the breakaway, helped his friend Vincenzo Nibali get away. Once the pace went on the Soulur, ease it back, roll over the top, relax on the descent, on for a free ride, and he'll come up to the top of the Tourmalet to collect another green jersey. Hearing through our race centre, Adam Yates is still 30 seconds behind this group. There's a little bit more descending to come. I'm not so sure they can close 30 seconds. Simon and Adam plus Jack Haig.
This is Vincenzo Nibali in the red colour. Leader of the King of the Mountains classification in third spot, Tim Wellens. He's extended his advantage today. Vincenzo Nibali wants the polka dot jersey. He's shown all the signs. He said that he was aiming for stages and the King of the Mountains jersey. It was only when those guys had their bad luck with the crashes that he started to talk about. But there's the gap for Adam Yates behind the peloton. Set to the course, the leading breakaway group of three, they're off in the distance. Yates could almost see the convoy of cars behind the peloton. I think he will be able to make contact again. He's going to spend a lot of energy in the process and a lot of energy of his brother Simon and his teammate Jack Haig.
Well, over the last 2 minutes, they haven't gotten any closer. They're still at 31 seconds, in fact. They were into 29. They are losing a little bit of time to this group. I'm not confident for them.
He's been a stage winner at the Tour de Limousine. He was fifth at the Mont Ventoux Challenge earlier on this year. He's riding the Tour for the third time, and he's only 24. He's got a lot of experience for a 24-year-old. Gap for Yates is only a couple of hundred metres behind that main peloton. I do think he'll get there, but then they pay a really hefty price. But look at the gap for Romain Bardet. He's almost 3 kilometres behind the yellow jersey group. Here is a chat with Yates before the start of the stage. Oh, sorry, a little bit of confusion. Yates is at 10 seconds behind. Next, we're going to be hearing from Thibaut Pinot. So Yates is at 10 seconds behind. He will get there.
Well, if I knew Yates, well, he was at 30 seconds like we were seeing, but that wasn't his group.
They've cracked the barrage, though, Robbie, to make him earn every metre. It's going to be difficult. I thought the convoy was going to be the launching pad to get him there. The UCI, the commissaires, have done the right thing by creating that barrage.
They have. Not in this race situation. You do not get a free ride back across when you're a contender and you've been dropped.
Let's now go back to the start of the race with Thibaut Pinot, the Frenchman from Groupama FDJ. As Jack Haig is closing it down, Yates will return. Makes a very good point, Thibaut Pinot. You can only make a plan that your legs can execute. Clearly, he's confident, though, with the amount of work we've seen his teammates doing from Groupama FDJ. This is the second group on the road. The red colours at the back of that group. That was Ilnaz Zakarin. These are the riders they're chasing, and again into a technical part of the descent, and the gap that has been opened up by Vincenzo Nibali. As soon as it gets technical, Vincenzo puts distance into his breakaway companions. "57 seconds the gap for the chasers. Zakarin has been caught by Luis Leon Sanchez and others.
The problem for Vincenzo Nibali gapping these two who have been working smoothly with him, puts himself on his own, and he's got an 18-kilometre section through the sprint, through the feed zone, and to the foot of the Tourmalet. He'd be much better off with 3. He's only a few seconds in front. He'll probably ease up and wait. Will be the best thing to do in terms of going for the stage win.
He's already around the next corner, as well as Angers-Bear still exiting the previous.
So they'll come back together. I think it's Vincenzo Nibali just making sure they push on as fast as possible, give them something to chase. Also gives them a marker on the descent. Follow my line. He's 3-4 seconds in front. They see his entry point, a little bit of braking. They can judge it much better too. Makes them better descenders.
And the complete opposite to that, in the group at 28 Julian Alaphilippe as it swells again. Number 3, Jonathan Castro-Viejo returns.
Yep, so Yates is back there. Guy coming into the race as a genuine contender, having before finished 4th overall, having won the white jersey for the best young rider in the Tour de France in the past, and then being dropped on the Category 1 climb when the real focus of the day is the big one at the end, the Tourmalet, the all-category climb to the finish. His morale has taken a beating.
It has a real beating. He needs a fresh start, Romain Bardet. He looks like he needs a holiday. Not just physically, but psychologically, perhaps more so than even physically.
The group that formed on the Salur is going to come back together before we get to the foot of the Tourmalet.
And I fear Nibali today is hurting his chances for a future stage victory. 48 seconds in front of the yellow jersey group. Surely they'll be caught on the Col de Tourmalet. 1 kilometre to the intermediate sprint. Nibali, though, he's a man with loads of experience. And he's a guy that traditionally in Grand Tours gets better into the 3rd week. Through the chases, they've cleared out all the vehicles. Not even the Mavic neutral service with the motorbike is between these two groups. It's only 11 seconds. And 48 seconds back to the peloton.
Well, everything closing in, and I think we're going to have a complete front peloton of sorts, a small one, but a complete group when we get to the foot of the Tourmalet. There's Andre Amador, and along with Carlos Verona, that will be their job done. Get to the foot of the Tourmalet, and it's going to be up to the likes of Marc Soler, Alejandro Valverde, Mikel Landa, and Nairo Quintana to see if they can complete the execution of the plan.
I'd like to know the mood inside the Ineos team car, whether they are feeling the pressure of Movistar. That's what Movistar is trying to achieve. They want to put the team of the defending champion under pressure.
They also want to put Alaphilippe under pressure. Yates back of the peloton looking for drinks, both Simon and Adam.
Almost at the intermediate sprint. Wellens in front. Gisbert in 2nd position. Nibali in red. This will not impact on the leaderboard in the battle for the green jersey. Wellens won over the top of the 2nd climb on today's stage, the Col de Solor, and he will win the intermediate sprint. Gisbert at 24 shown real maturity, not disrupting the rhythm. Nibali's not interested in this minor prize.
No, Tim Wellens, I doubt he believes in his chances to win the stage, even to take points on the Tourmalet. So just getting whatever he can out of the rest of this stage, the Belgian, and that's why that longer turn. So I'll do a much longer one if I can just roll through the sprint point as first. Still a few points left on the line for the chasing peloton. I'm sure we'll see Peter Sagan also do a turn through the intermediate sprint point and just add to his total and extend what is already a very large lead in the points competition.
And then once they get to the other side of town, it will then be into the feed zone. Peter Sagan down the green jersey, making the most of the minor points that are on offer. No need to look over the shoulder, Peter. There is no one in that group that will challenge you today. Extends his lead further, on target for a 7th victory in the points classification. 3 riders from Mitchelton Scott at the back of the group.
This is La Abbatiale Notre-Dame de Somption in Saint-Savin.
And this one, Benedictine monastery that was founded at around about the 9th century on the ruins of an old Roman palace. In 945, the Counts of Bigorre richly endowed the abbey by purchasing the land and giving them the opportunity with the Benedictine order to build the abbey in this position. It was declared part of the national estate during the French Revolution, and throughout the 1990s, they did a lot of refurbishment, and it now houses a museum of religious art.
This is the Pic Midi d'Ossau, here high in the Pyrenees. This the Pic du Midi de Bigorre. The observatory we saw earlier on in the broadcast, right at the start, and that's even overlooking the Tourmalet. well above, around 3,000 metres, just a touch under.
Just
2,850 something.
Correct. That's roughly what it stands. And it was good to see earlier on as well. There was somebody there dressed up as an astronaut. Today marking the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. This is the leading group. Kalmajan at the back in the blue colours of Total Direct Energy. He's found his form. He, by his own admission, was really struggling in the first week. He's now been in a couple of important breakaways. Wellens with the King of the Mountains jersey. Nibali collecting the musette bag from the side of the road. If you have just joined us, let's now take a look back at the stage so far and show you what you might have missed out on. This is the Bardet group with pretty much all of his teammates around him. 7 riders from AG to Le Mondial in this group. The only one missing, Alexei Vilimos, I didn't spot there. It's a sad sight to look at the size of this group with non-climbers in here and lots of them.
Missing a lot of sprinters. This is Roman Sicard at the front of the race for Total Direct Energy. Trying to get himself onto the foot of the Tourmalet first as they ride up the Valley Road. Vincenzo Nibali, he just continues to tap out the rhythm. So don't worry about attacking up the road. Let's try and work together. See if we can possibly open this gap. If the peloton take their foot off the gas through the feed zone, we might be able to take a few more seconds.
And for Roman Sicard of Total Direct Energy, this is as close as he'll get to his home region. He's from the Basque country on the French side of the border.
Looking to impress the family and the fans and not taking their foot off the gas whatsoever is Team Movistar.
Peter Sagan in the break, mopping up the points from that main peloton at the intermediate sprint. There's Sicard in the distance, opening up a small advantage.
The rest of the group seem to be letting Vincenzo Nibali, or putting the pressure on Vincenzo Nibali to do the bulk of the work in the pacemaking on the front of this group. And that time gap is coming down 39 seconds, 40. It's going up a little bit for Sicard, but that main part of that breakaway group are drifting back towards the peloton.
10 years ago, he was the big hope of French cycling. He won the Tour l'Avenir for the future stars of the Tour de France. The same year, in a really hilly course in Mendrisio, the World Championships in Switzerland, he won the under-23 road race solo. Intermediate sprint, Wellens collecting the 20 points for Peter Sagan in 9th position, 7 more points in the race for green. Here he is, Roman Sicard, our sole leader at 31 seconds ahead of the yellow jersey group.
And it's a technical descent, so you've got to think of those numbers in terms of a really winding technical descent where you don't get a long straight section to build up really high speeds for a long period. 3.2 kilometres to the climb of today's stage. It is an all category climb, and at the top, as well as the stage win, there's also the Souvenir Jacques Godet, the prize, going to the winner on top of the Tourmalet. Highest point here in the Pyrenees they'll race. It's the highest paved road in the French Pyrenees.
Not too far away from the Spanish border, super motivated today, and their Colombian star, Nairo Quintana, is priority number 1. Fear, in a similar way to Simon Clark when he was in the breakaway, that once they hit the bottom of the climb, the tank will be empty. And for Roman Sicard, this with the most combative prize, he has not won a race in the pro peloton. 10 years since his last victory, that was the under-23 World Championships in Mendrisio 2009. Is break it down into bite-sized pieces. Now he breaks it down into this 20-kilometre climb.
This is really good for Sicard. Tailwind up the valley, and him pushing the lead out to nearly a minute and a half now.
Mikel Landa now on the radio. He's had a tough tour, one disrupted by bad luck.
But you never know what you're going to get with Mikel Landa. You said priority number 1 for Movistar is Nairo Quintana. I'm wondering if that's just what they're telling Mikel Landa now as a reminder. Yeah, but the enigmatic Spaniard so often does whatever he wants.
and he's reported to be going to Bahrain Merida next year. Quintana reported to be going to Arkea Samsung, and Movistar are on the hunt for Henrik Mas, who wears the white jersey today at the Koenig Quick-Step.
His interview this morning, he said, we're going to give everything to Julien. We are starting to believe he can get to Paris in yellow.
Underneath the 20-kilometre marker, the climb of the Tourmalet is about to start. It just nags away uphill. This is a gradient of around about 2% or so, maybe even a little bit more than that for Rome. The real climb for the Frenchman is about to start. Here come the chasers. Gisbert at the front, followed then by Calmejean. When you're not here throughout the Tour de France, it really is a very peaceful, calming region. This is the Chateau Sainte-Marie, which we're now getting a chance to look at. This was built by the Count of Bigorre back in the 10th century. It housed also the Hospital of St. John, later the Knights of Malta, then the English garrison during the 100-Year War. There are the numbers, 19 kilometres.
These are the first chasers. Elie Gilbert, the man in white and black, and Lilian Calmejean.
Still Movistar at the front. Astana coming around the outside, making sure that they position Jakob Fuglsang. Richie Port is in there with one teammate. He's got Volker Mollema for support.
And Richie Port, he has promised that he is going to when the big mountains start. That is today. He said he's feeling fresh, he's feeling good, he's feeling confident, despite losing a lot of time. He's ready to go.
He has always spoken about week 3, and the Alps are still to come. Col de Tourmalet. Carlos Verona, one last time to the well.
Peter Sagan and the men around him, they've decided that is enough. We're going to get to the finish okay. With him, Ilnur Zakarin, the man who was in the breakaway. Also, Vincenzo Nibali, Tis Benoit, he will play no further role.
And Kamna, who was in that earlier breakaway. So once they realise they're caught, save the energy and look for the next opportunity to try and win a stage. It's Elie Gisbert at the front for Arkea Samsic. It's still Movistar. Ineos, still with plenty of riders in that group. They've still got 4 there. It looks like Jonathan Castroviejo has returned, and Mikhail Kwiatkowski. 3 riders in there for Jumbo-Visma, supporting Steven Kruijswijk, George Bennett and Laurens de Plus.
This is now Gilbert going away from Lilian Calmejean and going in search of Roman Sicard.
Calmejean had been sitting behind him the whole time. Shows the strength of Gisbert.
At least for Elie Gilbert, he had that tailwind up the valley, so it didn't make a lot of difference to him. And he's chasing that one man in front. Now he goes in search of Sicard. The peloton, they are around 45 seconds behind him.
The 24-year-old riding the Tour for the front of him. Or have they? No, they haven't. Not just yet. They should be. Because this is the man he is chasing. This is Roman Sicard. One last bidon practice. The steady nature of this climb, it does suit Geraint Thomas. And Dylan van Baarle.
I agree with you completely. It suits Thomas. It does get steeper at the top, but remember what he did on La Planche de Belfi when the gradients were up to 24%. Really interrupted. The altitude training camp snowed out. The crash in the Tour de Suisse today will give us a much better indication than yesterday did in the time trial. Sheltered, Julien Alaphilippe.
Also in that group, Jakob Fuglsang was there for this Dana team. He's got quite a few teammates around him. The white colours of UAE Emirates. Dan Martin is in the group. Rigoberto Urán is there. He has Volker Mollema as Elie Gilbert is getting across to Roman Sicard. And he is at his limit. Off from the front of the peloton for the Movistar team. It's now Andre Amador who is setting the pace. Roman Sicard. Well, does Gilbert force the pressure or have a little bit of a rest? It's a little bit of a rest. He'll have a drink and then he needs to maintain this rhythm. Somehow. Easier said than done.
Because it's not quick enough, he needs to go straight past him, which he does.
Straight away. He's showing real maturity for a 24-year-old.
And looking straight away, it wasn't a look as if, say, are you coming with me? I dropping you already?
And he is. That is the answer. Not happy with the tempo. This has been impressive.
So Elie Gilbert, he's offloaded Kalmajan out of his wheel. He's ridden across to his teammate Sicard, and he's also got rid of him. And it's the young Frenchman from Arkea Samsic who now pushes on the lowest slopes of the Tourmalet.
It's nice to be having this conversation about him as opposed to Gianni Moscon. Let's put that behind us as Elie Gilbert is applying the pressure at the front, hunting for a stage victory.
More riders out the back now. Lutsenko and Luis Leon Sanchez from Astana going out the back of the bunch. Their job is done for today. They've supported Jakob Fuglsang. This is Kalmajan. He's been swallowed up and spat out.
Wait, back of the peloton, Mitchelton Scott out of the saddle. That looked like one of the Yates brothers.
It looked more like Adam's style than Simon's, but we didn't get a read of the number. And yeah, of course, being identical twins, it is somewhat difficult.
And Alejandro Valverde, Nairo Quintana. In that group, Mikel Landa. So well represented at the front of the Movistar team. 10% grading.
This is Gilbert, the young French peloton. He's matching Andre Amador, pedal stroke for pedal stroke, but there's still more to come from Movistar. Marc Soler lining up behind, ready to do a turn of pace.
Behind Alaphilippe is his teammate in white, and that is the best young rider, Enric Mas, the facial expression of Egan Bernal.
Bearing the teeth, Dan Martin gone once and returned. Now it's gone twice. I don't see him coming back again. In Sweat to a very, very warm day out there as well. The Spaniards, they'll be loving it. Maybe the Welshmen less so.
Yellow everywhere, but it's a man in white for Arkea Samsic. The smallest or the second smallest budget in the race, Arkea Samsic, behind Wanty Group Gilbert, and their 24-year-old French climber, Elie Gilbert, is the man who was leading the charge up one of the most famous climbs in the history of the Tour. The 83rd time onto the Col de Tourmalet, first scale in 1910 in this race. Still Movistar, still Amador. Volker Mollema somehow has made his way to the front of that group. He's been yo-yoing on and off the back. He's towed Richie Porte around. He's been there to support him. Volker Mollema is doing an outstanding job.
Well, Porte back towards the back of the group again. So Mollema, he brought Porte up towards the front, right up to the wheel of Julien Alaphilippe. It's dropped further back.
This is Mollema with the yellow helmet on and the white and red colours. Trek Segafredo leading the team's classification. EF in the pink colours, Education First. They have Rigoberto Urán and Tanel Gangart in that group.
Really a game effort by Elie Gilbert, riding against the same man over the last 10 or 12 kilometres now. Andre Amador, only 11 kilometres to go. This has been a super effort by the Costa Rican on the front of the peloton. Still with Soler, Valverde, Landa and Quintana to come.
Right into instruction at the front, Andre Amador. Access to the Pic de Midi, the observation tower that we saw some footages of a little earlier. Number 91, Rigoberto Urán. Hard to read the body language, often sits towards the back, rode well on the time trial yesterday.
Yet some riders prefer to just drift through the group, not hold one position, but go with how the legs feel. Castroviejo, he's dropped. He'll switch things off and just roll his way up to the top.
No benefit in Castroviejo trying to limit the damage. He needs to actually save the energy for the next day, as you alluded to moments ago.
Team Ineos, they don't think about it as the individual's energy reserve. It's the team's energy reserve, and you're a part of that machine. It's done for Amador. Huge job by number 63, the Costa Rican.
That was impressive. That is what a domestic does when they empty the tank. He has come to a grinding halt. Bilbao now number 72 for Astana. He is really suffering.
Well, now Marc Soler will have gone to the front of the group for Movistar, Richie Port starts to move up because it's becoming more urgent, more important to sit forward. Riders are now starting to be offloaded. Balcamola going back as well. Nairo Quintana now a long way in the back of the group.
And a long way forward in the saddle, which is always a sign of suffering. Number 12 is Emmanuel Bookman. He's in 6th place overall. 91 is Rigoberto Uran. The French champion who says he wants to be a car salesman, Warren Barguil, is at the front. Don't worry about selling cars, worry about winning bike races. You're one of the best in the world. The peace and quiet, the tranquility at the top. Ali Gisbert about to be caught, but this is deserving of the red number for the most combative. He should get a spot on the podium.
It's been a great ride by Gilbert. Richie Port again, another acceleration. So just hopping around riders who are starting to be distanced.
This is Roman Kreuziger, the best placed overall for Dimension Data. Start of the day in 19th. He fights on. He will fight all the way to the finish to limit the damage.
Aru now also being dropped. No surprise, it's the start of a big comeback.
Quintana is being dropped. Movistar doing all the work at the front, and Nairo Quintana is being dropped.
Well, this is now a huge surprise.
Now it's all for Mikel Landa. Number 8, that is Dylan van Baal. It's been extraordinary for the Dutchman to survive this long. He's a specialist for the classics such as the Tour of Flanders and Paris-Roubaix.
Well, after Quintana, the next is Alejandro Valverde, but he is the man at the front of the group.
It's for Landa. This is for Mikel Landa, who is 3rd in line for Movistar. It's Soler, Valverde, the world champion, then Mikel Landa.
So maybe those injuries for Quintana are much worse than we thought. He said, don't make a big deal of it. It'll only make the people at home worry. Well, they are obviously affecting him because he's going out the back and his team is continuing to drive it at the front.
And there he is. Nairo Quintana is all on his own. And the composure of the yellow jersey, Julian Alaphilippe looks as comfortable as anybody in that leading group.
You can hide for a little while in the Tour de France. You can bluff it for a bit. When you get in the high mountains like this, eventually the truth comes out. And I think now we're discovering the extent of the injury to Nairo Quintana from that crash a couple of days ago.
He looked so good in the first week. He looked good on stage 6 in the Ponce de Valladolid. Twice second, once third. The podium will...
But hurting on the inside, Nairo Quintana.
The telltale sign is how far forward he was in the saddle when we looked in at the back of the group. And over the shoulder, this is Marc Soler.
Trying to salvage it for Quintana, sending Soler back. In the meanwhile, it was Valverde on the front.
Soler.
Do they now stop riding at the front? Soler's gone back for Quintana, he's got him. Aru there behind him. Dylan van Baal is the man in front of Marc Soler. That's the gap to the main group, and now there's Ineos who've taken over the pacemaking. So Movistar, so aggressive, been on the front for most of the stage.
Barguil now attacks the French national champion. Says he wants to be a car salesman. Well, see if he can buy a pair of these wheels. Can they track him down? 6 minutes 39 seconds
Problem
behind.
for Barguil, he stopped pedalling. Chain problem, mechanical, he's got it back on.
Perhaps he was going to the big chain ring.
Whatever he was doing, he flipped the chain off.
But he stayed calm. Richie Port, Balcamola at the back of this group for Trek Segafredo.
Now it's Walt Pools.
Lawrence de Plus is here for Jumbo-Visma, and in second position for Jumbo-Visma is George Bennett.
A lot of talking within Team Ineos. Here's the attack back of the group. So he starts his attack from 30 metres behind the lead of the group.
He's found his rhythm now, Warren Barguil. Akaya Samsung.
They are riding a great stage.
Do they really need to hire Nairo Quintana? That's the rumour that Quintana is going across next year. This group has really slowed down as Dylan van Baal has recalled them.
And that was the talking we saw from Ineos. We saw Egan Bernal on the radio. Thomas behind him, looking like he was suffering. The pace was being set by Walt Pools. Now they've eased off. Van Baal comes back to the front. In control at the moment with just Barguil off the front.
Warren Barguil. He gets the support even by the Basque spectators. He starts the day 6:39 down in the overall classification. But at what point does Geraint Thomas and Team Ineos start to worry about the yellow jersey, about Julian Alaphilippe, who leads by 1 minute and 26 seconds. Well, Pauls perhaps is asking exactly the same question of Geraint Thomas. They're in deep conversation. Number 71, Jakob Fuglsang. He said yesterday for the first time, stepping onto the team bus, he didn't feel his knee from the crash on stage 1.
Time performer Barguil, and with 8 kilometres to go, a 12-second gap. None of the big favourites have made a move as yet, so I'm not going to call him as a possible stage winner at this moment, but a great ride by Arkea Samsic. We've seen Gilbert, we've seen riders in the break, and now their team leader off the front at the hottest point of the race so far.
Can we go possible with a hesitation? Because he is making the race, and that is the destination. The mythical Col de Tourmalet.
That is the top of the climb, and look at the fans on the hillside. They are up here in their thousands lining the roads.
What a stadium. That's been closed for a long time. Look at how far down those camper vans are, making their way up on foot. The man affectionately known as Wawa is wowing the French public. 15 seconds. I'm hearing you about the fact that the big favourites, they haven't accelerated yet. There's still 7.7 kilometres to go. But this is the best he's looked in 2 years, by a long shot.
Oh, most definitely. That's an easy one to pick. It's the best he's been in a long time. Team Ineos taking responsibility. And are they lulling the rest of the favourites into a false sense of security? Maybe they're just trying to go a little bit slower at a pace that suits a Thomas that's possibly suffering. He wants to win on the Tourmalet. He's talked the talk, and Pinot goes to the front. It's David Gaudu away from Ineos. We see it often, the acceleration. It's not followed by the British team, and they try to wind it back in. But with a man in form like Thibaut Pinot, can they do it? It's panic stations a little bit behind. Jakob Fuglsang reacts.
So too does Mikel Landa from Movistar.
And Alejandro Valverde, he follows the wheel. The riders from Jumbo-Visma, Steven Kruijswijk, and not a move yet by Ineos. They are sensing a weakness.
At the back, 25, the white jersey. That is Enric Mas. 136 with the yellow number on. That is Bauke Mollema. Well, Pauls is still in this group. De Plus, Kruijswijk and Bennett for Jumbo-Visma. Kruijswijk is looking really dangerous for yellow. Richie Porte is still in that group. He slots himself in behind the white jersey of Enric Mas. But the gap is starting to open for Mas behind the yellow of Alaphilippe. Gaudu, the 22-year-old of French cycling, setting the tempo. This is Kangert now being dropped in pink.
Bauke Mollema struggling at the back. Richie Porte looking over his shoulder, seeing how much room he's got to drift when the pace comes on. Barguil still punching it out, 18 seconds in front.
Hasn't lost any real time though. It's been an acceleration, but not any significant time loss for Warren Barguil. This is Mollema, the Dutchman. Third in the 2011 Volta a España.
In front of him, last man on the group now is Richie Porte. Mollema struggles his way back into the wheels.
He's a picture of suffering, Bauke Mollema, and he knows how to go deep. This is Gaudu, followed by Pinot. It's then Fuglsang, Movistar with Landa. For the first time this morning, we heard Thibaut Pinot talking up the fight.
Looking at the faces, the two that look the most comfortable in the group, with a Frenchman on the front, Gaudu and Pinot.
Bauke Mollema still fighting, still clawing his way back. One pedal stroke at a time. Richie Porte is at the rear of the group.
Barguil takes another second on the chasers.
3 riders remaining. Number 1, you can see the hips from number 1, Geraint Thomas. They were starting to rock and roll.
Usually so solid in the seat, Geraint Thomas. Now a bit of movement, rocking and rolling. Quintana, he's being further distanced. He is now 36 seconds behind the group of the Maillot Jaune.
They're those little signs. sitting forward in the saddle, the hips rocking and rolling forward a bit more, a bigger gear than normal as opposed to the souplesse of a high pedaling cadence. Geraint Thomas looks to be under a little pressure.
Warren Barguil holding more or less steady, 17 seconds, and we've spoken so much about it, about the defending champion of the Tour, Geraint Thomas. He may get found out the lack of preparation, and it was going to take a long time in this Tour to get to that point. This is the first proper big mountain.
Here are the gaps on the road. The far right, Yates a long way behind. Then it's Quintana. He's at 300 metres behind the yellow jersey group. And then out in front on his own to the tune of 15 seconds is Warren Barguil. Fernando Quintana, he's 29 years of age, but it feels like his best is behind him. He hasn't been anywhere near it for the last 2 years by comparison to our expectations of him. He's won the Giro, he's won the Vuelta.
And we just can't know the effect that crash on stage 11 has had on him, whether he had it in him coming into this Tour or not, and it's so hard to get a read on Nairo Quintana.
We'll never know the answer to that question, the size of the impact of that crash.
12 seconds now for Warren Barguil. David Gaudu, he is making inroads on the lead, down to 10 seconds. Thibaut Pinot, he's got his heart set on this one. He's ridden this climb so many times. You spoke about his fastest time up there, and we talk sometimes about Strava records. His best time is 10 seconds inside the Strava record. Barguil, he sees that he seemed to ease off.
He knows he's about to be caught, so he's riding smartly. He's saving something for the next attack. That's clever by Warren Barguil. This is not Barguil, full stick, trying to fend them off. The yellow jersey is still there, Julian Alaphilippe. He dares to dream, so too do the French. They want him to believe. And at number one, Geraint Thomas, he is a long way back in that group.
Suffering or bluffing?
Give me 5.7 kilometres and I'll tell you the answer. That's the beauty of the Tour this year. It is wide open. Gaudu, he ups the tempo. They see the capture and they see the gap starting to open up behind. The young Frenchman is applying pressure.
Barguil, he's slotted back in fifth wheel, just ahead of the three riders from Jumbo-Visma. There goes one overboard for Ineos.
And Richie Porte is also overboard. He was good yesterday against the clock. Porte is now really suffering. 15th overall at 4:44. He might still improve his position overall today, but this is difficult. Enric Mas is the next.
Enric Mas, he was the GC hope for De Koning Quickstep coming into the Tour de France, but it's Julian Alaphilippe in the yellow jersey who is still holding strong in the group just ahead of him. Oh, the teeth starting to come out from Thibaut Pinot. Jakob Fuglsang, he is cruising near the front and looking good. Julian Alaphilippe out of the saddle, dancing on those pedals like he always does. I'm tipping him to hold yellow.
He's starting to become a big contender. Well, Pauls is at the back of the group. He latches on with the world champion, Alejandro Valverde. Egan Bernal and Geraint Thomas still in this group for Ineos.
Alaphilippe tracking Team Ineos. He almost hasn't left the wheel of Geraint Thomas. Valverde now at the back of the group. This is Pauls. His job is done.
Not much left for him to do. Walt Pauls is now being distanced. Don't think he'll come back a second time.
He's gone.
He took a long-range attack to Alpe d'Huez. We're seeing the suffering now of Julian Alaphilippe. He is digging deeper into the barrel. There can't be much left in the tank, can there, with all the race. And they've raced for more than 2,000 kilometres already.
You know, it's hard to tell with Julian Alaphilippe if it's suffering or selling the show. Buy a ticket and get on board with Julian Alaphilippe. It's always spectacular. And look at how small the group is, and he's still there. Never been in this position before in a Grand Tour.
Whichever it is, I'm buying 2 tickets and I'm bringing a guest front seat to watch Julian Alaphilippe.
Thomas makes a move up the inside, improving his position in the red, up and around the riders of Jumbo-Visma.
Just to remind everybody, he's still there. And he is. He slots himself alongside Jakob Fuglsang. Bernal comes with him.
Little flatter sections, so taking advantage of just flattening out gain a bit of momentum, ride your way around the group, find some shelter from the wind as well, because there's a few little turns where the breeze will hit them. Anything is enough.
Valverde still suffering at the back of the world champion. The yellow jersey, Alaphilippe, he sits behind the French champion, Barguil. In front of Barguil, it's Emmanuel Bookman. Then the pink colours of EF Rigoberto Uran. 3 there for Jumbo-Visma, Kruijswijk, De Plus and Bennett. Mikel Landa is here for Movistar in 4th position. Jakob Fuglsang sits in 3rd spot. At the front is David Godot, followed by his team leader, Thibaut Pinot. 27 seconds back to Enric Mas, and that is in the vicinity of Richie Porte.
Well, Richie Porte had vowed to start going on the attack, trying to get back some time. It's not working out so far for him today. Godot, he goes again. The young Frenchman, 22 years old. He'd been riding on the front, setting the tempo for Thibaut Pinot, and now he's on the attack, looking for the stage win.
His role is as the pacemaker. He's more than the pacemaker. He is charging up this climb. The reaction now coming from George Bennett. He tries to chase.
Jumbo-Visma coming to the front. Egan Bernal moving around now onto the wheel of the men in black and yellow.
But with that acceleration, as Warren Barguil has been dropped, Geraint Thomas slipped to the rear of the group.
Well, there'll be directors sportifs, they'll be sitting in the cars, they'll be watching a broadcast and deciding their tactics on what they see in the rest of the group. They'll be really paying attention to Thomas slipping back. Alaphilippe, he just continues to surprise. Rigoberto Uran on the right, number 91. Still riding this for a stage win, the Colombian.
He is. He hasn't put his nose in the wind yet.
They're coming back to Godot.
They are.
Alaphilippe, he stays with Thomas. Wherever he's been, Alaphilippe has followed.
Now David Godot has been reeled back in, and it's Laurens De Plus who has done the job.
De Plus, Bennett, Steven Kruijswijk, Emmanuel Bookman, number 12 up the front for Bora, also riding a fantastic stage. Landa is next to him. Godot, he now goes backwards. That was it, maybe. It was asked of him to go on the attack, do everything he can for Thibaut Pinot.
Pinot was putting his hand in the pocket to get a bite to eat. David, the great pacemaker. Fantastic performance by David Godot. Barguil now fighting for survival. He's getting his way towards the top 10 overall as the yellow jersey, Julian Alaphilippe, is still here.
Fuglsang now to the back of the group. He'd been riding comfortably in around 3rd wheel for most of the climb. Now he slid backwards. Nairo Quintana, he is 1 minute 50 now behind the front of the race. A big loss for the Colombian.
And Porte and Enric Mas at 42 seconds behind. Jumbo-Visma, the man on the front, is their new recruit this season. That is Laurens De Plus. He's the best Belgian climber of his generation.
They've won the team's time trial. They won a stage with Teunissen, a stage with Van Aert, a stage with Groenewegen, and the climbers are now getting their chance to represent. They have been the team of the Tour. And Steven Kruijswijk, 3rd overall coming into the stage. He will also be dreaming of yellow. But at the moment, it's the man pulling faces who's wearing it, and they're not getting rid of him.
The world champion, though, they have managed to cause a gap to Alejandro Valverde. It's extraordinary at 39 years of age that he is still here and he's still a factor. Laurens De Plus applying the pressure. Bennett looks so comfortable. He was dragged to the Tour for this reason. And speaking of dragging his way back, it's Warren Barguil. The French champion is on a good one.
Julian Alaphilippe, a sideways look at Barguil. Alaphilippe, he's bobbing up and down and still in the wheel of Thomas and still hanging on the back of this group. It only gets harder towards the top. The altitude increases and so does the gradient.
And at the moment, it's Jumbo-Visma riding with confidence. Tête de la course with Kruijswijk and his teammates. It's then the Ford group along with Enric Mas. They're at 43 seconds. Next in line is Nairo Quintana. Yates is a long way behind and Bardet is well and truly gone.
This is now the steep section of the climb that they are on. 3 kilometres to go. It kicks up average gradient over this kilometre, 11%.
That is brutal. And the altitude starts to touch on almost 2,000 metres. Valverde This is the Plus, followed by Bennett. Then it's Kruijswijk, the human coat hanger still looks good.
Look at the face of Kruijswijk. Relaxed, control. Bookman's still looking good at the front of the group as well. Vogelsang here, number 71 at the back, just in front of the French champion Barguil. Yellow jersey glued to the wheel of Thomas. Now it's George Bennett. The Plus is done.
Bennett checks across the shoulder. Great job by the Plus. Bennett ups the tempo. You can see the way the group thins out a little. Congratulations, 83. Switch off, save your legs for tomorrow because your team leader is on a good one. He sits in second. It's Steven Kruijswijk.
It's George Bennett, the Kiwi. He ups the tempo.
Faster.
Steven Kruijswijk.
He said faster.
George. Faster. Wind it up. I've got more.
The yellow jersey's right in a huge gear. He is muscling his way to the top of the climb.
He is doing an exceptional job, Julian Alaphilippe, and as always, flicking the legs, trying to shake the lactic acid out of those quadriceps. Alejandro Valverde, he's dropped further back. His teammate Nairo Quintana, no longer a factor either. It's at the front of the race, and it's Jumbo-Visma putting the pressure on, and the yellow jersey will not let go.
And he will be in yellow tonight. He is not losing a minute and 26 seconds in the last 2.3 kilometres.
I'm going to hold off on agreeing just yet. It is brutal towards the top. Really, the steepest sections coming up towards the finish line. We're hitting the altitudes, and when you suddenly pop, you go bang.
Well, his buffer to Steven Kruijswijk, who sits in second spot, is 2 minutes and 12 seconds. His advantage over the defending champion, second overall, is 1:26. To Geraint Thomas, the stringing out, the pressure of Bennett.
Bennett's now got them single file. We saw Kruijswijk ask him to go faster. That is just begging for an attack to come from the Dutchman, from Jumbo-Visma.
Well, the Kiwis, they're famous for their climbers, most significantly Sir Edmund Hillary. They've got a good one again, and this time it's Bennett, who loves the high mountains.
11 men remain in the front of the race. 2 from Jumbo-Visma, 2 from Ineos, and the rest are on their own.
Bennett, Kruijswijk, then Lander. Next in line is Bookman, followed by Bernal, then Thomas. Another move coming around the outside. It's Thibaut Pinot. His teammates have done some work. It's just to get to the front. That's to move around traffic. There he is, a little grimace. That was hard just to get alongside Kruijswijk.
This is shaping up to be a group sprint at the top of the Col de Tourmalet. It stands at 2,115 metres above sea level. This short stage, it has delivered the biggest punch, and now it's Barguil going at the back. And
Vogelsang! Jakob Fuglsang paying the price for the crash on stage 1. Now the move is coming from Lander. Bennett was called off the front by Kruijswijk, or was he? No, Kruijswijk sending Bennett to the front once again.
He doesn't want the pace to drop. There were riders coming around. Once they got to the front, they were backing it off. That's the tactic. Get around and try and slow it down so I don't get dropped. Fuglsang, no good looking over the shoulder. The answer's not there. And Uran.
Rigoberto Uran in pink. The Colombian continues to fight. The pace, does it back off ever so slightly and give him a chance? Clear the road, the Colombians are shouting.
Nobody wants to sit in a single file line and give away metres. The crowd, they need to back off. And from 11, there's now 8.
Bernal is still here, so the Colombians still have hope on Independence Day. Bennett, Kruijswijk, Lander, Bookman, isn't he riding well? The yellow jersey, Julian Alaphilippe, is the story of 2019.
The crowd is in a frenzy. There's a Frenchman in yellow, and he's holding strong with the best GC riders in the world. Bookman goes to the front.
Bernal responds. Then it's Thibaut Pinot. Egan Bernal responding as Geraint Thomas, his teammate, is suffering. Bennett takes up the chase.
The German climber from Bora Hansgrohe, Geraint Thomas. There's a gap. Thomas is being dropped.
We await the arrival of the defending champion. First in before him, though, will be Rigoberto Uran. As Thomas has almost collapsed. Uran at 30 seconds. Thomas, he could be caught by Barguil, not quite. 36 seconds. deficit for the defending champion. Celebration. An emotional day for Thibaut Pinot.
They put some cards on the table early. FDJ, they joined the chase early on the stage, believing in Thibaut Pinot, Julien Alaphilippe, and after yesterday, surely the French journalists are out of superlatives. They're going to have to make up words for this one. Pinot and Alaphilippe, 1-2 on the Tourmalet, not only defending yellow, but opening the gap.
We know what's going to be on the front and the back pages of all the papers in France tomorrow. It will be French success, the stage, and yellow. 1985 was a long, long time ago. Now we have Frenchmen at the top. Renaissance. We say so. Led by Alaphilippe, followed by Thibaut Pinot. Well, the extraordinary results for Thibaut Pinot, winning stages of the Tour de France. He's one of the top of Alpe d'Huez, as he referred to. Also here now for the Tourmalet. It was a dramatic day, surrounded by the best climbers in the world on one of the most iconic climbs. And as he said at the end of this tour, it's not over. There is a long way to go. He's made up a little bit of time overall. He started at 3 minutes and 22 seconds behind Julien Alaphilippe. He's also gained time on the likes of Geraint Thomas, and his confidence will be building. Thibaut Pinot knows he can go the distance. Arguably the best victory of his career because of the challenges that he's had over the last couple of seasons to come back from those, and he's won with the pressure of expectation. He concedes he doesn't enjoy that.
So I'll go with, not arguably, just the best victory of his career. That was incredible.
He's had some big ones.
Look at the fight here behind. The fight against themselves as much as each other.
Celebration for Pinot, 6 seconds to gap. He's still very much a factor for that team. And he's the best placed overall for them. He gets second position in general classification, but once again, it's Thibaut who won. They can be really happy. Do you think he can hold on to the jersey tomorrow? I tend to agree. Then there's the rest day, with a fun stage to name. Then a long day to gap, 3 days in the Alps, and his buffer is 2 minutes and 2 seconds. Unsung hero of the day, David Gaudu, for the work that he did for Thibaut Pinot, and Emmanuel Buchmann. Emmanuel Buchmann, he's right, finished 4th on the stage and moving himself to the 5th position overall. We celebrate the performance of David Gaudu throughout the stage, but not enough without the ride by Emmanuel Buchmann, unsung hero.
Yes, we did sing the praises of Gaudu quite a lot, and it was a very good ride. But I lean towards Buchmann.
We'll go with Buchmann. Review of the photo, you go with Emmanuel Buchmann, the unsung hero.
Photo finish, and he got it by 4 centimetres.
Live IQ move for those who look at the these of the scenery. This one goes right back to the 12th century, made of granite, where the first stones were laid. It's been listed as a historical monument since 1910. Nice views overlooking the valley. Like IQ move for the day, Vincenzo Nibali was in the breakaway. As soon as it was clear that that breakaway was doomed, he sat up and rode really conservatively. And further evidence of that smart move by Vincenzo Nibali, he's in a potential stage winning break today.
No surprise, Vincenzo Nibali, he is one of, if not the smartest bike rider in the peloton.
So speeds on the descent, the top speed of Michael Matthews, 85.1 kilometres per hour. He took some rest to close down that gap.
That was chasing that front group, so Matthews and the small group he was in, they needed to take the rest off the top through the KOM, in the fog, through the cloud, close that gap.
So you agree with the IQ move by Nibali from yesterday?
100%.
Excellent. So George Bell at the top of the medium middle. This is Rigoberto Urán, 7th overall, 4 minutes and 24 seconds behind. He is still really dangerous in this race, Rigoberto Urán. A sense of calm has returned to the back of the peloton. This breakaway group, they're underneath the kite, 1 kilometre to go to the intermediate sprint.
And Matthews tracking everything. For a man who said, I've given up on green, well, he's been tracking everything. He goes again.
This is Caruso. And Matthews wants a piece of the action. Matthews is currently 4th in this classification. He wins here. He moves up to 3rd place ahead of Elia Viviani. But he's looking across the shoulder and he's spending a lot of energy. Niels Pollitt is the rider that is behind him.
Then there's a gap behind that. So Matthews will be hoping that he'll get an easier ride through to the line, that Pollitt won't go and challenge him. Pollitt's managed to ride the slipstream of Matthews across this gap. 3 of them off the front. Surprised to see such a battle for it by riders who don't have any points in the green jersey competition as yet.
Matthews now stays in the slipstream. Niels Pollitt is getting the jump on him. Wrong shoulder for Michael Matthews, but he's got the speed to get the better of Niels Pollitt. And he collects 20 points.
He worked hard for that one, Michael Matthews. And this is where and why I'm disappointed that Michael Matthews gave up the fight to the green. We've seen them in the past. It's been often Chris Froome will choose one stage where he gives it absolutely everything, opens up a big gap on the rest, also will give them a good clip over that ear in the time trial. But in the other stages, it's a lot more controlled, only accelerating in the final few hundred metres quite often. They take a few seconds here and there, but just defend the lead right fairly conservatively. Now they're behind on the stages, ticking away one by one. They are going to have to come up with a different style of racing. They're going to unseat Julian Alaphilippe. And at the moment, although there was all this early aggression, it's looking good for Julian Alaphilippe. He has not been isolated. Credit to his team. Staying in the group for some of them, chasing back on for others. They're doing the job.
This lead group now has split through that intermediate sprint. This is Marc Soler now at the front. He's followed by Bilbao from Astana. It's a handy little sprint. That is Julien Bernard just behind him from Trent Segafredo.
2 Movistar riders in the group. Amador was the man at the back of the group. Quintana is back in the main group of that breakaway. Nibali. So we take a nice flyover in Tarascon-sur-Ariège.
Pretty good town. We'll just run over the town of Castella. So we're going to go to the church of Notre Dame de Sèvres. It's a church that just had a brief doing a very good job, the Dakota Quickstep team, containing that breakaway. It hasn't been much more than 2 minutes and 30 seconds their advantage. This is at the back of the breakaway group as they come into the feed zone. And this is the little split that has gone off the front from that group. And Julien Bernard from Trent Segafredo is pretty keen to press on. Through the feed is a good opportunity because there'll be a few riders taking it slightly easier back in that bigger portion of the breakaway. And they've already gained 250 metres.
Well, you've got to pay attention everywhere, and the smartest riders, they track the move through the intermediate sprint, road in the wheels, no sprints, but just follow the speed as much as possible. And then go on with it. Hello, Bilbao has also made it in here.
Matthews in the red colours, Bilbao just behind him. Pollitt is there for Katusha. Caruso is also the Gallopin, the 2 riders from Movistar at the back. Amador is number 63. With him is Marc Soler. The rider that's worked his way up into 3rd position overall is a Dutchman, Steven Kruijswijk from Jumbo-Visma. And we caught up with Steven Kruijswijk before today's stage got started. Here he is now.
Yeah, I think we surprised a lot of people that we were still the 3 of us in the final, and that's the way we wanted it. And the guys did a great job pulling towards the end for me, and the opportunity I couldn't finish the stage with, but I think we did a good stage. is actually good as well. We see so now I believe pretty strong. We see him work that easily and we have to keep fighting. It's a long way to go. Can't wait to make it.
He's done any good pacemaking in that breakaway down there. He's the only rider from UAE Emirates in that group. In some respects, that can be a slight advantage. All the other teams have got multiple riders in this breakaway. But Dan Martin is there on his own. So too is Simon Yates, actually. But they can look to other teams to do any of the chasing if there is a split in that group. And wait until it's crunch time before they really need to put themselves at the front.
Well, you know, Matt, the good thing about this course and about the profile, you saw it down the bottom right of the screen, is that the climbs are all fairly close to each other. So it's either up or it's down. There's not much valley road at all. Just a little section towards the foot of the final climb, the Adliswil. I think no more than a 8-kilometre section that could require any chasing if there's a split.
Niels Pollard out in front. Reaction coming pretty quickly from the man in the yellow helmet, that is Marc Soler. The group is really disorganised, even though they're out to 3:37.
So Pollard just trying to keep things going on behalf of Ilnur Zakarin, get the biggest gap possible. That's really all that Pollard can do from now on, is just try and open up the gap. He can't be a persistence on these Category 1 climbs to his teammates. So this is the best thing he can do, is keep the pace on. It's drawing reactions from behind. Nico Roach says, well, I better go across to that one just in case.
Also, Simon Geschke from CCC making sure that he stays on the wheel. He's a powerhouse on the flat, Niels Pollard.
So even though nobody's in his wheel, it's encouraging the others to swap off behind him, not let somebody go, just keeps the momentum going of the group. And you see all the reactions coming now. More and more riders have gone across to that second group. A little bit of panic starts to set in, then someone jumps.
And the primary reason Niels Pollard is doing this is because his teammate Ilnur Zakarin is in that breakaway. He's a great climber, Ilnur Zakarin. He's been third in the Volta a España, stage winner this year in the Giro d'Italia. Simon Yates is chasing.
But Zakarin is not in this second group, so Pollard is also looking back to see where he is. Here he is, in that third group, towards the front of it, just behind Vincenzo Nibali. So Pollard has caused this split by reactions behind him, and his teammate he's trying to ride for at the moment is in the last group of the four. It's all starting to close back up again. And that is what awaits the riders up the valley. They are approaching the foot of the first Category 1 climb of the day. That was a couple of years ago into Foix. We will ride through today. Instead of the finish line being down in the town itself, it's high above the Adliswil Category 1 climb. Back there, just great to see that footage again of Warren Barguil and his entry into that final corner. He's carrying way more corner speed, a much faster line. Already standing up and on the pedals while the others were still trying to corner further to the inside. Perfect execution. By the time they knew what was going on, he was gone and the stage win was in. He would go on to win on the Col d'Izoard and sew up the polka dot jersey of 2017 as well. And this year, after a very lean and inconspicuous 2018, Warren Barguil is back on the attack yesterday on the Tourmalet. And backing up a great effort by their whole team, in fact, at Arkea Samsic. Elie Gilbert was off the front earlier on. When he was caught, it was Barguil who went on the attack. No, it wasn't a stage-winning move, but it was a good attempt and will be a real confidence booster for the Frenchman. Really signalling his return this season with his win in the French Championship. Back up to the break, and it looks like we still have a split. There is still a large group in front.
And just again on Warren Barguil, I wonder how he feels about all the rumours of the arrival at his team of Nairo Quintana. There's 15 riders out in front, leaving 21 to do the chasing. Team's classification currently being led by Movistar, 11 minutes and 5 seconds ahead of Trek Segafredo. Vincenzo Nibali, number 41. The climb is about to start.
So any of those riders in that second group, the good climbers who have missed out on their split, they do have the chance early on the early slopes of this climb to get themselves back across, but give themselves a lot of work to do. The likes up here of Peter Bilbao, Nicola Rods, Reichenbach. This is the second group, just with Dan Martin at the front, Ilnur Zakarin. We saw his teammate pushing the pace on. Ilnur Zakarin try and open up the gap. He's caused a split and he's missed it.
11.4 kilometres worth of climbing. This is at the back of the group, number 63. That is Andre Amador. 136 is the bobbing, ducking and weaving Volker Mollema. 41 Vincenzo Nibali. 156, that is Pierre-Luc Perrichon, Tropical Fetus. Peloton still being led by Defending Quickstep. And Mollema, third in the Volta a Spanier in 2011. He is now being dropped. And he started the day 15th overall at just 9 minutes and 3 seconds down. He's got Ilnur Zakarin with him. That's disappointing for Katusha Alpecin. That's the rider that Niels Collett was working for. Another rider from Fatigue from the Giro d'Italia where he finished in 10th place.
Well, at the moment, Zakarin is about the same distance behind the front group that he was at the foot, but other riders are moving away and going across. This is Tim Wellens. Well, he's done what he could today. He did a good job yesterday, collecting maximum points on the Category 1 climb. He'll live to fight another day, and he'll be keeping his fingers crossed about who gets the major points on the 3 climbs today.
Base of the climb, Ami, the sprinter, who is at the front for the Koenig Quickstep. The team is fully committed to the yellow jersey of Julian Alaphilippe. Yesterday he said he thought it would be hard. At the end, he said it was even harder. This is Simon Yates. Stage winner hits a Bagnier de Bigorre. He's followed by Sebastian Reichenbach. Next in line is Rudy Mollard, two riders from Group Armour FDJ. The red, Nico Roach. This is Lutsenko in white.
The gap, nothing wrong with him. Elia Viviani, their sprinter, is still here and looking really comfortable. For a pure climber, a man who's second overall in the Tour of Spain last year is out the back. To be illness.
Has to be. Even on a bad day, he would outclimb Viviani.
So that means when the pressure goes on, you would expect most of the riders from the Koenig Quickstep to be dropped, bar Alaphilippe and Dries Dagenais.
It means there's going to be some lonely kilometres for Julian Alaphilippe defending the yellow jersey. Andre Amador, followed by Romain Bardet. I do like the character of Romain Bardet after such a difficult day 24 hours ago. He bounces back immediately and shows himself once again at the front of the Tour. Remember to the breakaway group, Roman Croix, Iglesias leading. Kim Martin is the yellow helmet that you can see off in the distance. In addition to being a philosopher, he's also a playwright. He's written a stage show, which is being performed at the moment in the Avignon Festival, and his mum is the producer of that show. It's Platon versus Platoche, and it's based on the writings of Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates. But he has said, first and foremost, I'm a professional cyclist. I don't want to be typecast as this character of the cyclist philosopher. He's a lot more than just a bike rider, isn't he? With the masters in philosophy, and he's a playwright as well. He's got a bit going on here, Martin.
Well, he's got a bit going on trying to cross the group in front of him, and they in turn are chasing the front of the race, which has really started to heat up. The single file, Geschke still here, number 114. Nairo Quintana, the best on GC in this group, starting the day 7 minutes and 19 seconds behind the lead of Alaphilippe. Another big acceleration here, and that is Caruso.
He's following
the wheel of Bernard.
Yeah, he's following Julien Bernard. The pink colours, Michael Woods. Number 72, that is Bilbao.
So this is a chasing group, not the front group.
Correct. Yeah, this is the second group there, and they're at 26 seconds behind the front of the race. There's Guillaume Martin just in front of them.
That was the group with Dan Martin in front of him, and they are still behind the lead of the race with Simon Yates. He's already on the march and looking for stage win, number 2.
This is Ciccone. He's had a great tour. Second on the stage, La Planche de Belleville. A couple of days in the yellow jersey. He catches on to the group being led by Simon Yates. This is Dan Martin, followed by Bardet. Kreuziger in third position. In fact, that is not Romain Bardet. That is Tony Galopin that sits behind Dan Martin.
There he is, number 35, Tony Galopin. A very difficult start to this Tour de France. Came in under an injury cloud after a crash in the French Championship. Started the Tour all bandaged up on his left-hand side. A few days later, he had another crash. After that, since then, things have been looking up. He's got himself into a couple of breakaways, and he looks to be getting better as this Tour goes on, as Nairo Quintana is now having trouble following the wheel.
And he's not looking to be getting better. His teammate Marc Soler dropped back for him yesterday on the Col de Tourmalet. Soler is not waiting today. He's in this group trying to go across to the front and join that contingent of riders with Simon Yates.
You saw Quintana just reach for the radio communication. Soler taking a look back to see where he is. So obviously the word from Nairo was just easy for a second, easy. No way, Soler is trying to power across that gap. You can't wait for Quintana in this situation now.
If he waits for Quintana, they both miss the move.
If he's blowing this early on a Cat 1 climb where the action's only just starting after what happened with him yesterday, Soler's got to push on and see if he can go for a stage win.
Woods is trying to push on. He has got Omar Fraulet with him from Astana and Guillaume Martin from Montegroup Goubert. Roman Kreuziger out of the saddle for Dimension Data. They're about to make contact with the group. At the rear of that group is Simon Yates. Roach is there in red, so too is Leonard Kamner. Again, the young German. He's been very good this week. Didn't see much of him in the first week, but in the second week, he's been one of the standouts.
Andre Amador, the man who did most of the riding on the front for Movistar yesterday, and at the moment, he's the best of his team out of this breakaway.
This is Lutsenko, the Kazakhstan national champion.
He made a lot of attempts to get into the break today. It took him about 5 or 6 goes to eventually join this move that was able to get away.
Galopin, number 35. He has made contact. The body language of Dan Martin looks to be paying the price for the effort to close that gap.
Simon Yates, he made that acceleration. He split the group. He made everybody make a big effort to... Seems like he's just been sliding his way to the back, seeing who's here, catching his breath a little bit, but staying in contact with the back of the group. So a little bit of recovery, and I expect him back at the front of the group again. And he's not done with attacking just yet.
The stunning Pyrenees, the final battle for this year's tour, that will be held in the Alps, including the stage from Albertville to Val Thorens. And today they have 16,000 people participating in L'Etape du Tour. You can also do L'Etape du Tour in many countries around the world, including in Australia, where Esteban Chavez and Amanda Spratt will be riding this year. But amongst those participating in L'Etape today in France, Frank Schleck, former stage winner at the Tour de France and a third-place finisher overall in 2011.
The high summer pastures here in the Pyrenees. Relaxed atmosphere if you're just out in the fields. The pressure coming on both up the front of the race in the breakaway and just starting to build back here in the peloton as well at the moment. De Koenig quick step with Casper Asgreen setting the pace. Yves Lampart's still there as well, but the gap opening more and more to the front of the race. But they will also be hearing that Nairo Quintana is in trouble and being dropped out of the group in front. So that will help them to relax somewhat back in the peloton. Looming behind, Team Ineos, Jumbo Visma with Steven Kruijswijk. George Bennett there, just behind him as well. Soler, Lutsenko, Kreuziger, Guillaume Martin.
And all of a sudden, Nairo Quintana is within 2 minutes of the yellow jersey. He's now threatening the position of Geraint Thomas in second place overall.
Michael Woods moving himself up towards the front, so expect him to be going for the King of the Mountain points as well. He showed his hand over the last climb where he got the better of Vincenzo Nibali. This is Pierre-Luc Perichon. He was dropped out of the break and now drifting his way back to the peloton, who, talking of drifting, have now drifted out to 5 minutes and 18 behind the lead.
So in the virtual general classification, Nairo Quintana is in second position.
De Koning quick born into using too much energy and too many resources, especially at the moment since they're missing Enric Mas. Maybe hoping he can ride his way back on. I think it looks worse than that. But definitely giving Julien Alaphilippe a fairly easy ride. All the other teams prepared to sit back and just let De Koning Quick-Step do the work. They look at that virtual general classification. Quintana now up to second at 1:57, moved ahead of Thomas Kruijswijk and Bernal. This is what we're talking about. Who does what and when?
Romain Bardet sitting just behind Nairo Quintana. Two riders we often speak about in these sorts of positions in the high mountains in terms of racing at the front, but not from a breakaway that's been given more than 5 minutes. Both of them had tough days yesterday, and they're really fighting back with both legs today. 65 Ks remaining, and it is still the 22-year-old Casper Asgreen with the jersey unzipped at the front. This is Luke Durbridge at the back of the race from Mitchelton Scott. At the back of the main peloton, though, there's still a lot of riders further back behind Durbridge.
Absolutely. So Durbridge, he's in a safe position for getting inside the time cut and live to fight another day. And at the moment, just riding his way into the rest day. This is his teammate, Matteo Trentin.
No doubt they will get together and ride the remainder of the stage in unison, along with a few others that are slowly getting dropped off the back of the group. Steve Cummings still here at the back. These are the best legs we've seen on Steve Cummings throughout the tour, the Dimension data. Good news for Cummings is the green helmet in this breakaway is his teammate Roman Kreuziger.
And now, reminiscent of yesterday, Movistar on the front, but this time in the breakaway, and with a man who is making a march towards going virtual race leader in the Tour de France, Nairo Quintana.
Tactically yesterday, Movistar, they executed a plan that their leagues could live up to. Today, they've turned it around really quickly. This is strategically even better, and physically, they're performing at the next level.
I would say they carried out a plan that executed their team leader yesterday. But today he's
Bardet for points. Bardet for points. Simon Geschke wants a piece of the action. But Romain Bardet now, he wants a spot on the podium in Paris as the winner of the King of the Mountains classification.
Woods wanted to get through and was blocked. He's missed out on some points. Just squeaking through. This time, he was intent on having it. He just couldn't get out from where he was, Michael Woods. Romain Bardet is intentionally. This is Richie Buller. He's been on the back of the main group, but this looks like it rather might have been a nature break or a mechanical rather than anything else.
Yes. Richie doesn't look particularly stressed and is riding quite well back through that convoy of cars. Richie looks okay. It was a disappointing day yesterday. This is one that he appears to have under control. Riders from Soudal Lotto, he's Richie to the back pocket. He might have gone back to the team cars. It makes him cool. Towards the back with him from Soudal Lotto. He's the rider in second last position. There's still a little over a kilometre before they reach the top of the clock.
This he's just going backwards towards the peloton, and there they are. So the man who was so aggressive early on and all day yesterday was paying the price for those efforts. Not been the last we've seen of him in this Tour de France. I think he'll keep trying, but it just seems that he's running out of bounds.
He really does need the rest, though. He intends a team after that, followed by stage to Gap, where perhaps we'll see a bit more of Vincenzo Nibali up towards the front. Bilbao is in the breakaway for the Astana team. He's one of the riders we caught up with before the start of the stage. We're not too far away from his home region, the Basque Country, just across the border. Here is Carlo Bilbao speaking this morning. Bilbao has already been proven to be correct. A few riders will have a difficult day today. Chiefly amongst them, the earlier victims in the past, the young Spaniard from the Koenig Quickstep. He's already been distanced by the main top. This is above the bottom from Mexico, just in front of Michael Matthews. Once he said, I wanted to hurt the others. Well, he did.
He absolutely did, and that's what you've got to want to do. You've got to go into it like it is a fight. That was a great ride as well. Peloton and the break both now enjoy around 16 kilometres of descending off this category 1 climb, and the next one comes up. It's a double up in the way. It goes from one straight onto the other. The lower slope is called Kaunu. Category 1 climbers next will move the peak air 9.3 kilometres at an average of 8%. It's shorter than the last one, but steeper. And mood says it all. French for more.
Look at the numbers in the last few kilometres. It goes from gentle at the bottom, from blue into red, a little bit of respite in the middle, and then at the top, gradients of 18%.
So that first part, called the Kaunu, they get past that section after 6 kilometres of climbing. The next 3.5, which is the actual mood of the air. That 3 kilometre section is all, well, I'd say the average is 12.5%. But with those steep sections, like you said, it'll be through the corners, 18, 19%.
Neil's Pollock now being caught by the main
I
car.
think it'll serve to break up the front group. Peloton, however, still a big question mark, isn't it? Who is going to do the chasing? Who's going to get nervous about Quintana having a 5-minute lead at this point in the race when they still have a long descent off the top of the next climb all the way to the foot of the Prat d'Albi? Because when they crest the Mur de Péguerre after 147 kilometres of racing, they have 28 kilometres to the foot of the final climb.
And it continues. It's the cycling standoff between the Koenig Quickstep and the rival of Julian Alaphilippe. Ineos, they continue to wait patiently. Yesterday we expected a little more, but I certainly did, Thomas. But he is hoping that that's his one as a behind him. He wants to get himself back into contention. I don't think today is a day where Thomas take time back on Julian Alaphilippe. And it's just funny that that's the shift in the language. Not about can Alaphilippe defend, but can the others take time on him? Based on what we've heard about the whole climb today, it doesn't sound like it's one that really suits Geraint Thomas. So if he is good on the climb today, then he's back and he will be a contender once we get the Alps. This is still a race of breaking through. This is the deepest we've been in the dark as to who's going to win the race for the last 10 years or so. Maybe even more. Great edition of the tour. The Koenig Quickstep taking a few more risks on the descent. They've closed it back down now. It's just a little over 5 minutes.
Looking at that final climb, it's not as brutal as the climb yesterday off the tour. It's not as long, it's not as steep, it's not at the same altitude. The altitude at the top of the final climb, 1,205 metres. It's an 11.8 kilometre climb as opposed to 9.7% for the steeper sections are. And just the last kilometre is only an average of 3%, a little flat peak through the line. It's going to be easy for the favourite to all stay together on the final climb today. I don't see a lot of changes happening amongst them.
But I didn't anticipate Henrik in this climb either.
That is also true, and what Peo Bilbao is we have got a problem.
This is Woods. He's trying to get something out of his front wheel, which is always extremely dangerous. He's putting this point. He's always a nervous rider to watch on descents.
He is. It looked precarious for Woods. I'm not sure if it was possibly a gear problem or he wanted a bit more adjustment in the brakes. Sometimes you see the riders on the uphill, they'll flick a quick release, totally release the brakes out, so any flex in the wheel won't touch the brake pads. As much a psychological thing as anything else. Sometimes you'll hear just the very faintest touch when out of the saddle. On these climbing bikes, so light, really, the lightest wheels, things flex a little bit, sometimes just brush ever so slightly. But he was looking like he was trying to adjust something there, still looking down.
He's still really concerned about it. Former 3,000 metre record holder as a runner in Canada. He's done a sub 4 minute mile. He's managed to run 3:56 or 54. I can't quite remember what it is, but he was the record holder, at least at the time, in Canada. He did an interview with Inside Business early in the Tour de France, around about stage 2 or 3, and he said, riding a race like the Tour de France, it makes you a better bike rider, but a worse person. Tempers get frayed, you don't do a whole lot other than ride your bike, quite obviously, and you live in a bubble, you're oblivious to everything else that is happening around the world. He doesn't look at ease at all on the bike at the moment in Mike Woods. The Movistar team, though, they are taking command of this breakaway. This is Marc Soler at the front, followed then by Andre Amador. In third position is Nairo Quintana, who's worked his way back up towards second place in the overall standings. Simon Yates is behind him. Romain Bardet is in this group. Let's take a look at the climb. And this is what we spoke about. It starts okay, then eventually goes to black.
Yep, that blue colour, they are the lower gradients. You have it 6.5%, and it goes into the red. An easier section in green, so a chance to ease off, catch your breath in that red zone, and turns to black track. 13, 18, 16%, and a long section. That black continues to the top of the wall of Péguer.
It doesn't fade to black, it rises to black. It is a brutal climb right at the end. That's where it's at its toughest. The good news for a lot of the riders in the race today is the altitude's not super high. 1,300 metres by comparison to the more than 2,000 yesterday. Oxygen density shouldn't be too much of a problem. The yellow jersey so far, Julian Alaphilippe, just simply looks like he's enjoying himself. Still has 3 teammates with him. Dries Devenen is there, so too is Casper Asgreen. Just want to get a little bit closer to confirm the other one. We would have anticipated Enric Mas, but he got dropped earlier on.
Up the front, the attention turns to nutrition, hydration, recovery. The next climb is really tough.
And just a couple of kilometres away from hitting the base of that climb. This is the philosopher and the playwright, Guy Martin, number 191.
We talk often about eating and drinking. It's important to do it often. Do it when you can. There are very few opportunities now on this stage. You're either going up a category 1 climb or down a tricky descent like this one, uneven off camber through the shadows. Right through it. Reaching your top.
So there's physical stress on the way up, psychological stress on the way down. This is the experience that you go around on the dancing on that, let everybody know,
Leave your manners out of it, hand it back off and grab something, stuff it in your mouth, and chew with cheeks like a chipmunk to just get it in while you can. This is a 187km stage. It's been incredibly fast from the get-go. So it's not like you just roll along and keep fueling up at your ears.
So the leading group with the Romain Bardet, they went over the Pont-de-Lay at 21 km per hour. The very quick step left Peloton, Julian Alaphilippe, 19.7. Is that a little bit of rain? It is.
Well, it did rain in this area last night, and we said it was very humid and always blow in.
It's not a little bit of rain, that's a lot of rain now where the peloton is. This makes it dangerous, and you get the sense that perhaps Julian Alaphilippe, he would like the rain. He doesn't mind danger.